No, maybe I'll catch it. You were saying every Wednesday, darling. You were saying something. Okay, I'm about to check you out. Every Wednesday.
Keep the Captain Gamble, everyone. All right, we have Keith the Captain Gamble here with us today in the house. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to talk to you today about a project that you're working on. I understand it's called From the Root to the Fruit, a Chronicle of the Blues.
Yes.
Tell me about that project, please.
Well, this project comprises all of the genres of music from the slavery times, from field hollers and chants, from early blues, all the way up through Dixieland, through jazz, through rock and roll, R&B, up to the rap era.
Could you tell me, Captain, what is the blues?
Well, the blues is a mood. It's a condition. It's a history. Blues are all these things and a whole lot more. When I think of blues, I think of the present and the future, encompassing all musical expressions, particularly American music, and other artistic expressions like dance, literature, poetry, and the like.
Okay, now you just said that the blues is a condition as well as history.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by a blues condition?
Well, a blues condition, there's several elements to a blues condition. It could be a social condition or a personal relationship situation that is interpreted in song and verse, by a black man or a black woman who's struggling to live in America.
Could you give us a sample of a social condition as expressed in song?
Oh yes, one particular song, B.B. King's Why I Sing the Blues. Everybody wants to know why I sing the blues. It's been around a long time, really paid my dues. Well, I first got the blues, I was brought here on a ship. The man was standing over me with a lot more than a whip, and everybody wants to know why I sing the blues. Been around a long time, really paid my dues.
Right.
As a social condition.
Social condition. Let's talk about some of those social conditions.
That condition could be a mother getting her child taken from her on an auction block. That's a blues condition. Or a policeman shooting a kid for holding the wrong kind of candy bar. That's a blues condition. A no good woman or a no good man or a real good man and a real good woman. All these are just facets of blues that are expressed in verse and song.
You were talking about a relationship condition. What's a relationship situation that's expressed in the blues?
Oh, well, there are just myriad examples of that in the blues. One such as Red House. Let me
Now,
look
Red
at it.
House? That
Yes.
sounds familiar. Who's that by?
It's a blues song by Jimi Hendrix. Okay? So blues is timeless. It's not just from someone who's in their 30s or the 20s in the woods. It could be someone from Seattle, Washington who played in the late 60s and 70s. So it's there's a red house over yonder. It's where my baby stays. There's a red house over yonder, people. That's where my baby stays. I ain't been home to see my baby in about 99 and one half days.
Yeah,
seen 'em.
lovely. So, could you tell us, Captain, where the blues comes from?
Well, blues is a folk music, black folk music that was originated in the Delta region of Mississippi. It's the northern part of Mississippi and surrounding areas. But its roots are in slavery, no question about it. We find that many of the early chants and field hollers, we call them work songs, were from these slavery times, from the slavery songs that were brought over. We weren't allowed to have a drum. We weren't allowed to have our language or our religion. So what we did was create from our own experiences, from our own spirit, from our own emotion, from our own very souls, this type of music. Like in the other islands, like maybe in the Caribbean, the West Indies, and Brazil, they were allowed for the most part to keep their drums because their numbers were smaller than they are in continental America at that time. So in order to prevent an uprising or communication between the different peoples that were brought here, they removed the means of communication, which was the drum. Consequently, we developed our own style of expression using our farm implements, the work tools that they gave us to chop their cotton and to pick their tobacco. We use those to make musical instruments from, or beats. Musical, what is it? Noise funk. Showed how they use their feet to tap
bring
out.
in the noise, bring in the funk.
Yes, to use
Tap
that
dance.
to tap out their own different kind of blues, to create musicality out of any ordinary object around you or whatever. They improvised and they created this art form.
I heard you mention a work song, and I understand that there was a thing called a field holler.
Oh yes.
What is a field holler?
Now, field holler is a type of work song. There will be a leader who would stand before like a certain particular work party or field hands and create a song that would inspire them to work at a particular cadence, at a particular pace, depending on what the actual job was, whether it be chopping wood or busting rocks or picking cotton or tobacco. Everything had or railroad construction. Everything had a certain beat and a certain tempo. And this leader would yell out a certain phrase or verse, which would be repeated or answered by the workers in the field. it's a try to serve as a distraction from the blazing sun that they were subjected to.
Can you give us a sample of a field holler?
Oh yeah, there was this one. Well, it's derived from a field holler, but it's a work song from a chain gang. It's called Rosie. These convicts are there, and they have this aspirations of leaving prison and going back to this girl Rosie who's waiting for them, hopefully pure and chaste. So I'll give you a little bit of it. And that's the sound of the jackhammer hitting the axe. Be my woman and I'll be your man. Be my woman and I'll be your man. Oh, be my woman and I'll be your man. Catfish Sunday dollar in your hand. Well, stick to the promise, girl, that you made me. Stick to the promise, girl, that you made me. Whoa, stick to the promise, girl, that you made me. We'll be married once they set me free. Set me free, Lord. Set me free. Set me free, Lord. Set me free. Hey, Rosie, be my gal. Hey, Rosie, be my gal. When she walks, she rocks and plays behind. When she walks, she reels and rocks behind. When she walks, she reels and rocks behind. Well, ain't that enough to trouble a convict's mind?
Yeah. Listening to that, it reminded me of church. So let's talk about the blues and gospel and spirituals. How do the blues relate?
Oh, well, they are like identical twins. They are siblings. They are both derived from these field hollers and the work song just sung out, variations of those things. Spirituals on one hand and blues on the other. There are certain spiritual songs that were crossed over. If you just change the word on some of these songs from Jesus to baby, you'd have a blues song, even though it's predominantly the same chord structure and configuration. The 1-4-5 progression is still prevalent in gospel and secular music as well.
But I understand that blues was really very taboo amongst most churchgoers. They considered it secular music that was...
Oh yes, that's where the name blues derives from. The Blue Devils, they call it. It's supposed to be the music from hell. And you're supposed to be very sinful and capricious if we play some kind of depraved, if you played that kind of music. And they really frowned upon it. A lot of the traditional people there really frowned upon playing blues and church music too. You had to either play one or the other, or they consider you blasphemous in the eyes of God.
And that's what happened with this one blues composer, Thomas Dorsey?
Oh, Thomas Dorsey, Thomas A. Dorsey. Not to be confused with the swing leader, Tommy Dorsey. He was a blues player who in later years turned to play only gospel music. And he wrote one of the most famous and endeared songs, gospel songs of our time, called Precious Lord, Take My Hand.
Oh, could you sing a little bit for us?
Let's see, okay, let's see. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me home, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak,
something about the blues. When you hear the blues, you know it. What is it in terms of the musical structure of the blues that defines it?
It's based on what they call the pentatonic minor scale. It's with 5 tones. Against the chord. And what differentiates the blues scale from other types of music is the what we call the bending or the slurring. Like that's a moan, and that's not what you find in most musical genres. You usually have the trill or something. You have that in violin or in classical music, but this.
And you said against the chord, that's the
Yes,
1/4.
This chord, the 1-4-5 chord progression. So you have the 1 chord is the chord where you start from. In this case, it would be a B flat, and the 4 chord would be E flat, and back to the E flat. Then the 5 chord here, F to E flat, and back to the 1, 1-4-5.
And that is the basis.
That is
for
the basis
blues.
of all popular American music.
Okay.
Okay.
But we start
Starting
defining
with
that
this foundation in the blues, the root.
Okay.
And whatever comes out of that is the fruit, which is rock and roll, jazz, Dixieland, bebop, all is comprised of that 1-4-5 thing we call the blues.
Before we close, I just wanted to ask you to repeat something. You were at a program recently for Black History Month,
Yes.
and you were speaking to the kids, and you made a statement about this art form that you wanted the kids to know. Would you share that with us now today?
I want to let them know, and particularly the children, that we have an art form that has become the most popular form, basic structural form of music in the entire world. All the most popular music in the world is from America. Mm-hmm. America's most popular music is originated from black people. Those black people originated their songs from the blues. So you have to go from the root to the fruit. Whatever musical structure they come after that has come basically from the blues. And I was telling the children in particular, do not let this art form go. It is part of your culture. That's why so many artists, particularly B.B. King, is sometimes disheartened when he sees a whole magnitude of white kids in the audience. He's appreciative, no doubt, but he'd rather see someone appreciate something that we invented, because if you don't use it, like Grandma said, if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. We have to keep this alive within ourselves and let it proliferate within our culture, so our children can learn this and treasure it and hallow it like it's supposed to be. This is an art form just as relevant as Bach, Beethoven, or anyone else. blues alive, keep your culture alive, and keep yourselves alive by loving one another and communicating with one another, okay? It's very important. Particularly kids, you have to know those blues in order to do that rap and that R&B, okay? Okay, as has been said countless times, that the children are our future, but we are our present. Now, in order to steer them and guide them to a proper future, a future that's going to have promise, dignity, and pride, we have to do our part to present this to them. Children are like sponges. They absorb everything they hear, the negative as well as the positive. This is something from them, from their heritage, from their history, from their culture, and it should be preserved, or it will be stolen, or it will be lost. And it's my obligation to do this. The most popular form of music in the world is blues. Everything is based on blues. Rap is based on blues, rock and roll, and jazz. Blues is like the great-great-granddaddy that taught you everything they gave you your grandparents and your parents. This is yours. This is not from Asia. It's not from Africa. This is from here, from the blood, sweat, and tears of your enslaved great-great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents and great-great-great-great-grandparents. Okay? Now here's one to do something called a boogie. Now I need you to help me. Everybody got hands here? Who has hands? Raise them. You have hands? Raise them. Okay, so do like this.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very much.
me. Brothers, let me tell you something. The blues came over on a slave ship.
The blues came over in the plantation, in the cotton field, in the corn field, in the tobacco field, and on the road gang. When we was getting whooped, put in jail on trumped up charges, for stealing for our family to eat, for looking at the wrong woman the wrong way. You know what I'm talking about. That's the blues, y'all. That's the blues, and from the road gangs. The only thing we can take our mind off that, you know what that was, brother? What? That's right. What's her name? Rosie. What's her name? Rosie. Be my woman and I'll be your man. Be my woman and I'll be your man. Be my woman and I'll be your man. Catfish Sunday dollar in your hand. In your hand, Lord. In your hand. In your hand, Lord. In your hand. Stick to the promise, God, you made me. Stick to the promise, God, you made me. Stick to the promise, God, you made me. We'll be married once they set on free. I go free, Lord. I go free. I go free, Lord. I go free. Hey, Rosie, what a girl. Hey, Rosie, what a girl. When she walks, she really rocks behind. When she walks, she really rocks behind. When she walks, she really rocks behind. Ain't that enough the world? Convict mine. Convict mine, Lord. Convict mine. Convict mine, Lord. Convict mine. Hey, Rosie, what a girl. Hey, Rosie, what a girl. Stick to the promise, girl, that you made me. Stick to the promise, girl, that you made me. Stick to the promise, girl, that you made me. We'll be married once that I go free. I go free, Lord. I go free. I go free, Lord. I go free. Hey, Rosie, what a girl. Hey, Rosie, what a girl. Be my woman.